exposing the chilling truth in room 203. This is a tale that has been whispered through the halls of Greenwood University for decades, a story that has sent shivers down the spines of many students and faculty alike. The legend of room 203 is not just a ghost story, it is a mystery that has baffled and terrified those who have dared to investigate it. At Greenwood University, freshmen whisper about room 203 in West Hall. The building itself is an imposing structure, with ivy-covered walls and an air of antiquity that makes it seem like it has stood there for centuries. The hallways are dimly lit, and the creaking of the old wooden floors adds to the eerie atmosphere. It is in this setting that the legend of room 203 was born. Vacant for decades, it reopened due to a housing shortage. The room had been sealed off, its door marked with a simple 203 sign that seemed to warn of the horrors within. The dust and cobwebs that covered the room were a testament to its long abandonment. But as the university's student population grew, the need for more housing became urgent, and room 203 was reluctantly reopened. Sarah, a sophomore, was assigned there. She was a bright and ambitious student, eager to make the most of her time at Greenwood University. When she was told that she would be staying in room 203, she didn't think much of it. After all, it was just a room, and she had more important things to worry about, like her studies and making new friends. Ignoring the rumors, she settled in. Sarah had heard the whispers and the stories, but she dismissed them as nothing more than superstitions. She was a rational person, and she didn't believe in ghosts or haunted rooms. She unpacked her belongings, arranged her books on the shelves, and made the room her own. But that first night, she noticed an antique mirror, tarnished, warped, and unsettling. It hung on the wall opposite her bed, its surface marred by age and neglect. The mirror seemed out of place in the otherwise modern dorm room, and its presence made Sarah feel uneasy. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something wrong with it. Nights passed, and Sarah felt watched. The feeling of being observed grew stronger with each passing day. She would catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of her eye, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. The sense of unease began to affect her sleep, and she found herself waking up in the middle of the night, her heart racing. Shadows danced in the mirror, even when she was still. The reflections in the mirror seemed to have a life of their own. Shadows would flicker and move, even when the room was perfectly still. Sarah tried to convince herself that it was just her imagination, but the strange occurrences continued to escalate. One night she woke to a cold breeze and saw her reflection standing, despite lying in bed. The sight was so shocking that she froze in place, unable to move or scream. Her reflection stared back at her with a look of terror, mirroring her own fear. The cold breeze seemed to emanate from the mirror itself, chilling her to the bone. Terrified, she tried to remove the mirror, but it was fused to the wall. She tugged and pulled with all her strength, but the mirror wouldn't budge. It was as if it had become a part of the wall, an immovable object that defied her efforts. The more she struggled, the more desperate she became. Her roommate Emily laughed off her fears. Emily was a skeptic, and she found the whole situation amusing. She teased Sarah about her overactive imagination and told her that there was nothing to worry about. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Sarah dreamt of a twisted reflection banging to break free. The nightmares were vivid and terrifying. In her dreams, the reflection in the mirror would contort and twist, its features becoming grotesque and monstrous. It would pound on the glass, trying to escape, and Sarah would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding in her chest. Awake, the reflection moved independently. Even when she was awake, the reflection seemed to have a mind of its own. It would move and shift, its eyes following her every move. The sense of being watched became unbearable, and Sarah began to avoid looking at the mirror altogether. She avoided the mirror, but felt its gaze. No matter where she went in the room, she could feel the mirror's presence. It was as if it was watching her, waiting for the right moment to strike. The feeling of dread hung over her like a dark cloud, and she couldn't escape it. One night, fogged glass revealed, "Help me." The message appeared suddenly, written in the condensation on the mirror's surface. The letters were jagged and uneven, as if they had been scratched into the glass by a desperate hand. Sarah's blood ran cold as she read the words, and she knew that she had to do something. Desperate, she asked a paranormal-savvy professor for help. Professor Thompson was known for his interest in the supernatural, and Sarah hoped that he could provide some answers. She told him everything that had happened, and he listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each passing moment. He performed a ritual, but a crash locked the door. The ritual was meant to cleanse the room and banish any spirits that might be lingering there. Professor Thompson chanted in a language that Sarah didn't understand, and the air grew thick with tension. Suddenly there was a loud crash, and the door slammed shut with a force that shook the walls. When it opened, the professor had vanished. Sarah and Emily tried to open the door, but it was stuck fast. They pounded on it, calling out for Professor Thompson, but there was no response. When the door finally gave way, the room was empty. The professor was gone, and there was no sign of what had happened to him. In the mirror, his terrified face pounded silently. Sarah and Emily fled. The sight of the professor's face trapped in the mirror and pounding on the glass in silent terror was too much for them to bear. They ran from the room, their hearts pounding in their chests, and didn't stop until they were far away from room 203. The next day, the mirror was gone. Room 203 remained sealed. The university took swift action, sealing off the room once again and removing the mirror. The door was locked and a sign was placed on it, warning students to stay away. The legend of room 203 grew, and the story of Sarah and the haunted mirror became a part of Greenwood University's dark history. Some say at night you can still hear his faint, desperate cries. The hallways of West Hall are quiet now, but those who listen carefully claim to hear the faint sound of Professor Thompson's voice calling out for help. The ghostly figure of the professor is said to wander the halls, forever trapped in the mirror that once hung in room 203. Trapped forever in the mirror itself has never been found, and its whereabouts remain a mystery. Some believe that it was destroyed, while others think that it still exists, waiting for its next victim. The haunting of room 203 is a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that lurk in the shadows and the dangers of meddling with the supernatural.